Hello, and welcome to another episode of the She podcast. Be seen, be heard, be empowered. And do I have a rock star to share with you today? I'm really excited to be bringing you Tsao-Lin Moy, who is going to be sharing some amazing, interesting things around Chinese medicine and natural fertility. But before I give you the background on Cho, I just want to say hi. Hi, Cho. How are you?
Hi, Heidi. I'm very excited to see you and be on your podcast.
I'm very excited to see you and have you here as well and to dive into this conversation because this is all new stuff for me. So I'm excited to learn from you along with the audience. So I'm going to introduce you real quick, if that's okay.
Sure.
Tsao-Lin Moy is an alternative and Chinese medicine practitioner and fertility expert with over 21 years of experience in alternative and Chinese medicine. She's a licensed acupuncturist and herbalist and massage therapist. Cho is the founder of Integrative Healing Arts in New York City, where she offers acupuncture, herbal medicine, and energy healing to treat patients. Cho loves sharing knowledge about the branches of Chinese medicine and empower people to cultivate health, wellness, and longevity. Her specialties include women's health, fertility, anti-aging, menopause, stress, anxiety, immunity, and sleep. Cho is a contributor for Mind Body Green and has been featured on Dr. Oz, The List TV, Good Day New York, WNET, Metro Focus, and in publications like Well and Good, Glamour, WebMD, Ask Men, Insider, Parenthood, Eat This, Not That, Parents, Best Life Online, MSN, Authority Magazine, Health, Healthline, Medium, and Thrive Global. Wow. She's a natural fertility expert trained in East Asian medicine and helps couples conceive naturally using her fertility protocols in Chinese medicine. She's also the best-selling author of a book, which I can't wait to hear more about, called Will I Ever Get Pregnant? The Smart Woman's Guide to Get Pregnant Naturally Over 40. So Cho, thank you so much again for being here today. I'm really grateful for your time. A lot of the things that everything you help women with is something that I've gone through. Like I'm going through menopause right now. So I would love to hear some tips that you have on that for natural remedies to move us through menopause, because I struggle with one of my challenges is breaking out in hot flashes, especially when I'm trying to sleep. But before we dive into that, I really want to hear more about the branches of Chinese medicine. Can you share that with us?
Absolutely. So so Chinese medicine is not just acupuncture and herbs. There are 8 branches, and much of it has to do with it's about cultivating health and wellness. And so there is the food portion, there is the diet portion, there's the exercise portion, there is the mindfulness, right? There is the cosmology, right? That you would look, the esoteric, we're looking at spiritual. Then we have acupuncture, herbal, and massage. So the last 3 are really, and possibly the cosmology portion of it. And actually part of that is feng shui, right? So with cosmology, we're looking at where we are in time and space, and then that's an extension of the art and science of placement. So there's like an aspect of that. Um, so things like food, those are things to cultivate your wellness. So it's not just the things you do on your own, and then there are the things that you would need assistance with, where you'd have somebody to help you. So if your diet is good and you're getting sleep and you're doing all of your practices and exercising and really the mindfulness and consciousness around your health, you're going to be pretty healthy. But there are times when you're going to need a little bit more, when things are out of balance, and that is when you would need more of an intervention, such as herbal medicine, right? So in Chinese culture or East Asian culture, much of our food is really kind of we would call medicinally based. So you eat certain foods during different seasons because that helps you stay healthy. So in a way, the consciousness around food is a kind of a medicine in and of itself. If something happens where your body goes into illness and cannot come back, right? So when you're out of balance, then the body's unable to really like heal itself over time. then you need something more to bring you back into right relationship or in alignment. So that's how the branches work. So it's all encompassing. It's like a way of living.
Mm,
But today most people don't really understand their like what they're doing and how that affects their health. And so that's the difference in terms of the consciousness and really the health paradigm of being able to be proactive and also constantly learning and making that mind body connection. So, all of those things, if you're conscious, then you're in that connection and like, oh, my body needs something a little bit more than what I'm doing, right? And that's when you can make changes. But if you're not conscious of it, then you just kind of grab whatever you can, sign up, buy this, buy that, take too many supplements or something, really, and not really understanding what is happening. And so
mhm.
cultivating that understanding is part of that, and that's what I teach my patients.
Yeah, I love that you empower people to really take control and learn about their health and wellness and create a life balance around that. Because in today's world, we're just go go go, right? Everybody and people want a quick fix. They want a quick fix on anti-aging, which you help people with, and you don't do it the quick fix way where you just walk into it, and do the injectables. But people want quick fixes, so or easy, right? And they think that the quick fix is the easy way out, when in the long term that could cause them problems down the road. So what would you say are some, you talked about foods and that everything in the Chinese culture is medicinally based. So what would you say are three for people that really don't know where to start? Because I know for me, when I really want to get healthier as far as what I ingest with my food, but it could be overwhelming, especially when we're busy entrepreneurs and we're always go, go, go. We're juggling families as women and we're trying to have that health life balance and that work life balance. What are some maybe three foods that you would say are a must that we should be incorporating into our diet?
Okay, so what I would say is you really want to look at eating in season because, depending on where you are, because your environment, right, is going to play a factor.
Okay.
And a part of it is also your genetics, what you're able to, if you have allergies or sensitivities. So really important is when you eat in season, because then what's happening is you're getting the maximum of the nutrient density versus having something all year round, right? So this is really taking advantage of the natural aspect of how the plant, the life of the plant is.
Mm,
So eat more leafy green, right? More plant based, less
mhm,
processed. So in terms of particular foods, it's really like you definitely want to make sure you're drinking water, more water and things like green tea versus, sodas or a lot of caffeinated. Like you can have coffee, but if it makes you jittery, and especially for menopause, a lot of women, they find all of a sudden they have coffee and then they have a lot more problems regulating their body temperature or with
mm,
sleep. So, but having a little caffeine is going to help you with your brain function too. Otherwise, there's like brain fog. So instead, want to look at like, okay, I can have some coffee in the morning, but then later on, drinking a tea, even like a black tea or a green tea, because the mechanism is a little bit different. It's like a slower release, so you don't have the high and then the crash.
mm.
Right. So those are different because then it gets us jittery, overstimulated, and then you have problems like sleeping. And so sleep is extremely important. On the one, I would say like you want to have more plant-based, not processed. So
Mm,
even a lot of the healthy foods, quote unquote healthy foods, are also processed, and so your body doesn't digest them really well. So I would say as whole as you can get, and then also a really good probiotic, right? Because that is going to help with digestion, absorption, relieving inflammation. And that can come in the form of like fermented foods. So most cultures have like some kind of pickled food or like a kimchi, or like a sauerkraut, right? Something like that. Or you can have a kombucha, or even like something that's naturally fermented to help your gut. And that way you're going to have better absorption and not tax your liver or your body, right? So that you won't it you'll be able to clear out inflammation, right? And then the
Mhm.
sleep portion of it. So really, when I'm looking at like what is going to be the most effective, is going to be like what, just like slight changes, right?
Right.
And then the thing about, a lot of these like health foods are coming packaged in plastic, right? So it's convenient. You're like, oh, I love this because it comes to my door and it's all organic, but then it's in like these little bottles, which are plastic. And so that's something that we have to kind of like look at. It's better to, if you can, go and grab the apple, slice it up and eat it, versus, go get the apple juice, or yeah, like the within the smoothing, right?
Mm.
So that's what I would, in terms of guidance. Specific foods, I would say someone, I would really need to like see somebody's overall, what's going on in their health, and then I could make a recommendation for them.
Great. Thank you. So I want to point something out for those of you who are listening. Make sure you go to YouTube and check out this episode, because Cho has the most amazing skin, which moves me into the segue of anti-aging, because whatever you're doing, Cho, I want it. So can you share some tips for us women, and even the men out there, for who might be listening, for some like quick, not quick, we don't want it necessarily quick, but tips for anti-aging that helps keep you glowing the way you do?
Okay, absolutely. I'm so glad you. All right. So earlier I was talking about inflammation. So for myself, uh, again, more plant forward.
Mhm.
So that's something. So more leafy green, because it's less inflammation, right? Easier to digest. So every morning I do, and I teach this to my patients, I do a little bit of a lymphatic kind of a practice to really like help move the lymph. So in the neck area, 1/3 of the lymph is in our body, right? So that can cause like congestion, puffiness, skin rashes. So really like moving that out of your body, like helping yourself, your body to do that. Also, you're doing breath work. So when I do a lymphatic practice in the morning, I do breath work, which is kind of a Wim Hof, a quick Wim Hof, because also breathing oxygenates, and then also the movement of the inhale and the exhale to your diaphragm actually helps to massage your organs and pump them a little bit. So that helps to move out any congestion. And when you're sleeping, so we're, in bed lying still for, several hours, like 6 to 7 hours. And what happens is your body is metabolizing or processing metabolic waste. So the stress hormones, the digestion, all of that going through your liver. And the liver is like a big filter organ for detoxification.
Mm.
So that's why you get up in the morning and your face might be puffy, you feel groggy, like your brain is not like, you know, alert. And what that does is it kind of like helps to move it along very gently. And then I take a probiotic, right? Because that reduces inflammation and helps to also, you know, digest. I don't take dairy. I stopped with like mostly dairy products. I mean, occasionally, of course, I'll have a little cheese or something, but for the most part, I avoid dairy because it can be very inflammatory, right?
Mm.
And I can't find really like raw milks and things, and since I don't, which may have like natural probiotics in it, it's just easier to make my own, almond, cashew, pistachio milk, and have that. So those are like the big things, and of course drinking water, and then like taking some, having collagen. So that's like, so those are those factors. And really, I mean, you're asking me, I'm like giving you. I hope everyone's
I love
gonna
it. I
like
love
write
it.
all this
Yeah.
stuff down.
We're
Um,
soaking it in, Joe. We're taking it all in.
okay, so really, like, these are these things which are, I mean, have been doing this for a while now, and for sure, um, there's a genetic factor. I'm part Asian, so my skin, I have more collagen in my skin. But what really has made a big difference, and that people notice, has been when I started doing the lymphatic stuff and also the breath work to really like
Mm.
help clear it out. And that's when you see a difference. Like there's definitely, I mean, I was like, whoa, wow, when do we ever look in the mirror and say like, wow, my skin looks really good, right? So, what else did I want to say about that? Yeah, and also, what we think, because, and this is something that I talk about with anti-aging, right? Like children have this incredible, skin. They're full of energy, right? They're not toxic, because as we get older, we get more like we take on more toxicity, environmental also. But they have this thing where they're curious, right? And when you're curious, you actually like open your forehead, right? So you're interested, you're opening your forehead, you're not frowning. And so really what helps people stay young is like new things and being curious. And that also stimulates your brain, right? So if you're a little bit of a curmudgeon and you have a lot of doubt and you're cranky, then you're like constantly putting the eyebrows together.
Mhm.
And so one of the ways that someone says, well, how do I know I have inflammation? I'm like, if you're in a bad mood, because right,
Interesting.
because yeah, because what happens is when you're in a, like when you have toxicity and inflammation in the body, you get cranky. I mean, and this is something, women experience it, within their cycle. They'll start to know, like, oh, premenstrually, their skin breaks out, or they get bloated, their digestion, their bowel movements change, and they're like uncomfortable. They have nightmares, sleep stuff, and really, what is happening is right before the bleed starts. Is their body increases in inflammation, and then eventually it peaks, and then um, it comes out. So usually like right after the period or right before ovulation, around ovulation, it's like everyone looks glowing, right?
Right.
Because their system is cleared out, and now they're in this aspect of building the lining in the blood and getting ready for ovulation. And so that's what you see there. That's like an example of when you're holding on to or you have inflammation in your body. And that's, a natural part of the cycle, the increase in the cytokines premenstrually, is you're going to be cranky because there's that inflammation, and then that will affect your mood, right?
Wow. I learned so much in that, just in that segment. So thank you for that. I had no idea that you normally you'll hear water, like right when you want to anti-age, you like water, which obviously we all know we should be drinking more water, like you mentioned earlier when it came to what we should be ingesting. But the lymphatic system, the massaging of that, and then the breath work, like I was blown away because I had never heard that before. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm telling you, if you're listening, go to my YouTube and check out Joe's face, because she's glowing. And believe me, I'm going to be doing what she shared to do, because I want the skin that she has. I want to wake up and look in the mirror and go, wow, I have amazing skin. So thank you for
Okay, so you're gonna have to
that.
do it before and after, Heidi. You're gonna
I
have to do it
will.
before and after and be like, I tried this thing. And I can actually, we can probably put it into the show notes,
Yeah.
like the notation of a few different things to do. And really, it's a practice. It takes like 15, not even 15 minutes to do that in the
Yeah.
morning to really do something for yourself.
Yeah, 15 minutes and you get skin like Cho. Like I'm signing up for that. And if you do it, send Cho before and after pictures. We're going to give you access to her, and we're going to tell you exactly how to find her and get in the DMs and message her, and you can share your before and after pictures. That would be fun to see. So, Cho, I now want to switch gears, because you help couples and women with so many different things: anti-aging, menopause, fertility. Can we touch into menopause? And I know we're on a timeline because you're a busy lady, but I would love to talk into menopause a little bit, because one, I'm going through it, And I thought I was done. I thought the hot flashes were there for about 2 years and then they disappeared. And I was like, yes, I'm past it. And now they're back. And I was with a friend of mine last night and she's just starting that process. She's like, does it ever end? I'm like, unfortunately, I thought it was over, but it came back. So is this something that's normal that we can expect to happen for years and years? Or is there something we can do to help alleviate it? Because it wakes me up a number of times a night and people walk it, like my kids will walk into my room and they're like, this is like an ice box in here. And I'm I'm sweating tremendously. So what is it that we can do to help with those?
Okay, so every woman has like possibly a different reason for why they're having the hot, like what's triggering it. So again, one of the things that we talked about earlier was like the maybe like the coffee, certain foods. It's really what's happening in the body is that the there's the yin and the yang of it, and so in order to stabilize, it keeps on correcting one and then the next and then the next and then the next. And then eventually all the levels will even out, but overall a little bit lower. And so one of the things would be like looking at what's in your diet, so hormonally, instead of like taking hormones, is really like eating certain foods, which are the precursors. So for women, oftentimes it's like, oh, I don't want to eat any soy, but actually, things like fermented soy products like miso and even like the edamame and even like tofu, where those are phytoestrogens,
Mhm.
and so the body will metabolize those, and that's going to actually help for the balancing. One of the things in research that has been shown is that when women start having lower levels of the estrogen, progesterone, but really like estrogen, that they tend to have more fatty liver, so they have more inflammation, right? They get like more metabolic things. So that's like the fat around the middle of the waist. And
Mm.
so then what that does is that causes like heat. So when your liver is like working really hard, it's going to cause like a lot of heat. I don't know if you've ever had the experience or people talk about the meat sweats. When someone has like, you can look it up when they
I've
eat
never
like
heard that. I'm going to look that up though.
large amounts of meat, let's say at a barbecue or something, then they start getting this like sweating because
Mm.
it increases the heat in their body so that they can metabolize. So oftentimes we're kind of like looking at some of the dietary things of eating foods that are going to be a little more cooling, again, more leafy greens, things like flax seeds, other like the seeds. So what I would suggest is what I do with some women with like seed cycling is they need to incorporate more like seeds, like the almonds and the sesames and the pumpkin seed, right, and the sunflower seeds, like those, and flax, because those are the what they call like the prostaglandins, that they will help as a precursor, so you have what you need, and then your body will convert it. So
Mm.
those are like a few things that I suggest with it, and really like the sugar. And I also, even though I haven't read any research about it, I really think a lot of the artificial sweeteners, like these Coke Zeros and I don't know what else there is there, that they also create inflammation in the body
Mm.
because they have to be processed. So those are things. And then looking at when you're sleeping, right? Because it's important to then, just like being in alignment with nature, like eating in season, that we really need to start to wind down, as it gets darker, to like lower the lights, get off of our, electronics and the blue lights, and take advantage of the natural, like going down, like sun going down and winding down, so that we make enough melatonin. So
Mm.
melatonin is known as the hormone of darkness, and our circadian rhythm. So if we can like, and that's also important for beauty sleep, right? So you don't get like the sagging and the circles under the eyes, is to have like really a deep restful sleep, and
Mm.
that will also help, because it's also a nervous system thing, right? Like, waking you up and go, go, go. The other is, I would say, low blood sugar can also cause, or sugar imbalances can also cause like wakefulness in the in the middle of the night. So
Mhm.
checking like maybe you need to eat smaller meals, or if you're somebody who gets hangry if you don't eat, if
Uh-huh.
you're like, I need to eat something, then I also like to look at, oh, when did you eat dinner? Oh, I ate dinner at 8. What time did you wake up? Oh, I woke up at, I don't know, like 2 in the morning. So I'm like 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2. Okay, that's 6 hours from when you had something to eat. And if you're someone who needs to eat every 4 hours, if your blood sugar drops, then it might cause you to wake up, right? So
Mhm.
your body releases, oh, blood sugar dropped. I need to like kick in some adrenaline or cortisol, right? Um, Doing a little bit of breathing before you go to bed, so you calm your nervous system down.
Mhm.
Really, the box breathing. I don't know if you've heard of box breathing, which
No.
is like inhaling on 4 counts. So,
Okay.
and then you hold for 4, and then exhale for 4, and you hold for 4 counts. And you do this for a few cycles, 3 to 4, and all of a sudden your nervous system kind of kicks into the rest and digest, so that as you're going into bed, that you actually are already priming to be in that state, versus I lie in bed and I'm waiting for my body to power down, that you actually already start that.
Mhm.
And then you can easily ease into it, right? And then you think about, you're just releasing all the stress of the day, because oftentimes we go to bed and we're still stiff, and we wake up with like clenched jaw, because we're holding on to that energy. So a little bit of that is going to help. And yeah. And then the other thing too is, if you have a lot of nightmares, like bad dreams and stuff, that's also like inflammation, right? So that's
Wow.
like part of it. So those are like things to kind of look at.
Wow. I love that you called it power down.
Yeah, to
Because
kind of power down. You're like, all
power
right,
down.
like,
Yeah.
yeah.
We like shut it down. That's what a lot of us call it. But I love that power down because it's very intentional on what we're doing to help our body relax and get a really good night's sleep, which you said will also like get rid of the crankiness that we feel, inflammation, but also get, help us have a really good night's sleep. So thank you for all of that. And I know we're running out of time because you're busy, but I want to move to fertility, but real quick before I dive into that, because I want to learn about where we can
Sure.
find your book, how we can do it, and maybe a tip for women who, are struggling with fertility, and they want to, they want to get pregnant. I want to talk into that, but I have one more question around menopause. Is it true? Because everybody told me when you hit menopause, like just be ready for the pounds to start, coming on, as far as weight gain. Is that false, is that a false statement? Is that true? Or is it like, are we at lost hope as far as, weight gain
No, no,
with
it's not real.
menopause?
It's not true. But what I talked about before about the kind of like the liver stuff, like the
Mm-hmm.
congestion, that is something that, along with stressors, et cetera, women metabolically, physiologically, we are like the ones that absorb all of the stress. And there's an interesting, which I'll send to you later. Was a little talk by Gabor Mate, and he was like, "This is what women should hear as to why like 80% of the cases of autoimmune conditions are female." And that is because culturally we take on like so much, and so much of the stressors, and supporting everyone else and putting everyone else forward, that we tend to have a lot more stress hormones in our body. And then we also have this cycle, right, that is like goes up and down, our actual reproductive cycle. So when we encounter like large amounts of stress or constant stress and taking care of everyone, and then we don't take care of ourselves, et cetera, then we're hitting this point where basically our body needs to like do something with it, and so it like has to be stored somewhere, right? So there's a lot of an emotional component to it. I think culturally, women experience more negative menopausal symptoms in the West because of, how women are, how they see themselves and how the media and the culture sees them. Other countries like Sweden and Norway, or even in Europe, it's okay as you get older that this is a natural, part of, like, you're no longer going to be having children, but you still have value. So there's like a funny thing in the more west we are, and especially in the US, is that the idea of your value is in your reproduction. Like, can you create an heir? How many children can you produce? And so when we see that we're no longer going to have children, it's all of a sudden, oh, we're not attractive, or we don't have value. We're old, like you're like, we're old and like useless. So this is something that the mentality around it is also plays a role in terms of the severity of the symptoms of menopause. And this is done in studies too. So really important, your mindset around, like, like who you are, like what is your value? Is your value only in, are you attractive? Or so that's why there's also other stuff that we can talk
So
about like the ideas of beauty, and you're supposed to look perfect and those things. And they come from, even like, there used to be like ugly laws. Someone who was ugly would be like, oh, you shouldn't go out because you're offending people. And that's still to a certain degree, we're completely judged by, our appearance. And so much so that, people go to extremes, with the,
mhm.
body modifications, et cetera, because, that there's so much shame around like aging. Um, yeah, so that's, in terms of, what's going to make a big difference is also going to be how we regard ourselves. And then again, going back to removing the inflammation is going to help a lot, because our body is going to store like metabolic waste and stuff. Where can it go if we don't let it go? Also emotionally, like, just let go of stuff, that it's going to pack somewhere
Yeah.
because it's toxic. So it needs to be stored somewhere. And it gets stored in things like fat and fluid and tissue and puffiness under the eye, like all of these places. And also, it could, in a lot of cases, we see unexpressed emotions and frustration show up for women as like fibroids, endometriosis, breast cysts,
Mm,
right? Because this is where, women in stress, if you have children, when you were, lactating, that if you thought about your child, you would start lactating. Like, we have
mm,
like we have a very strong emotional connection to our body. And so recognizing we have this mind body connection and using it in a way that is going to help us be healthier and more whole, versus judging ourselves, right? And so that's going to make a difference. Yeah, so there's no, the idea like, oh, it's going to happen to you. No, it doesn't have to happen at all, right? But we need to be overall healthy, right? So
mhm.
these are these milestones, or times when our body is shifting, just like in puberty, right? Actually, puberty starts kind of even a little earlier, 8 or 9. It's like things start shifting, little hormones start shifting until you reach the point of when you actually have a menstrual cycle,
Mm.
or visibly things are showing up. And so with menopause, it starts also a little bit sooner, and then we really only see like certain aspects of it when it becomes apparent to us, which is why overall, looking at our overall health and wellness and focusing on our longevity is, it's a practice, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole practice.
Amazing. Well, that's a relief to know that it's not just a automatic thing that has to happen to us, and we have no choice or no way to fix it or prevent it. So, thank you for that, because now we know that we are empowered to educate ourselves as women going through menopause on how we can get healthier in order to not have to succumb to the extra pounds that everybody says that I hear from so many that it's automatic. So let's talk about your book. You have a book that you wrote. You're a best-selling author of Will I Ever Get Pregnant? The Smart Woman's Guide to Get Pregnant Naturally Over 40. So you help couples and women who are over 40 conceive naturally. Can you share where we can get the book and how you help women do that?
Yes, so you can get the book on Amazon, and what I'll do is I have a link tree, so that's probably going to be the easiest where that you can share, and then they can click on it, and there are
Beautiful.
things. So really, in the book, I actually give my best advice, I would say, over 21 years of experience of really teaching and supporting women and couples that are trying to get pregnant. And there is this kind of myth of the fertility cliff. You're over 35, and that then causes a lot of emotional distress.
Mm,
And so the first thing that I have in there is really about the mindset, about developing that fertility mindset, because that has to be in place. And really like recognize that so that you don't work against yourself, right? So you're going to move forward. You say, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And then you have this voice in your head kind of creating doubt, like, oh, it probably won't work, or oh, you're too old, or your eggs are no good, or even like listening to, with that, then you have this filter when you go to see somebody, or even like talk about, hey, I'm struggling, or I'm not sure what I should do,
mm,
that you have a negative filter on already. And so really important to understand, or to recognize, be aware of what you say to yourself. And again, that goes back to like later on with menopause, right? If you're like you're old and no good, or dried up, shriveled up raisin or something, whatever. And oftentimes it comes from outside, like culturally, like these ideas. And so that would be like the first thing, is really like to get that under control. And as much as someone can say, you're great, you have to say you're great,
mm,
right? So that's one of the things. And then also, in there, I also advise to like get off of like social media, and the chat rooms and the digital stuff, because those are major sources of stress.
mm,
And they are, stress hormones are like the biggest disruptor of reproductive hormones. So then that also later on carries into, menopause, a lot of stress. We have so
mm,
much, and we're taking care of everyone else, afterwards. And so really then that's like boundaries, and within that, I give exercises and things that for women and couples to work on together, and really having that vision.
mm,
A lot of times it's one of them, like the women gets like totally insane about when is her fertile window, but she might not even know when her fertile window is, right? So also educating and helping to develop that mind body connection. Like, what do I feel? I know more about my body than any app on my phone could ever tell me,
mm,
right? And to really like be in that power of it. And that's, so there's less about everyone else knows more than I do, and really like developing that connection and trusting yourself, right? So those are like a few of the things. Of course, I can't necessarily give like herbal
right.
remedies and things like that, because it's very personalized. I do, of course, kind of guidance, right? Guidance towards like in general things
Mm,
for women and couples. And really, there are a lot of the components are also, that relationship of like, what is it going to mean to you to be a parent? Um, how about, do you have support from your partner or spouse or family, or like a lot of these ideas of like, oh, I'm gonna have to give up my career, or in some cases there's so much guilt that like maybe they decided to pursue their career, and then now they regret, they say, oh, I should have, and really that's not helpful at all,
mm,
really not helpful. And so I give, guidance also on like, don't let people say stuff to you. Like also listen, when someone is negative, and oftentimes there is that when they, go to a clinic and there's the pressure of, oh well, you're kind of old, right?
Mm.
Then that just like sinks in, and often, I'll say, like, if there is a God, they are not it, right?
Yeah.
So we gotta like recognize, like, let's put things into perspective. So that I and there's also like an exercise on chapter 8 in there, and it's actually, you can download a one of that chapter. It's on perfection, right? So
Mm.
that's like a big a thing we're always challenged with in terms of perfection,
Yeah.
and that can lead someone down a road of really like despair.
Mm.
So
I really appreciate you talking into the mindfulness of it and how we talk to ourselves. And as far as like going through menopause, going through fertility, getting pregnant, all those things. Because I remember when I was pregnant with my daughter, I was older. I was 36 when I was pregnant with her. And within the first, I think it was a few months, she started detaching from the wall. And the doctor was pretty much like, it is what it is. Like, there's nothing we can do in your age, and brought that up. And I'm like, and I just had the belief that no, this, I get, she's going to be here. She is here. She's not going anywhere. And I stuck to that belief, and I felt her, and I envisioned her. And the next visit, she was reattached. And I know a lot of it had to do with my mindset. If I had succumbed to the belief that I was too old, and then I had a son a year and a half later. So I was able to have both of mine at the upper 30s. So I know it's possible. And I appreciate everything you're doing for women, because it's definitely a journey. And we feel so much at many of us, not all of us, but many of us are like, we just want that so bad. Cause like you said, it's how we perceive ourselves. It gives us value. And whether we have children or not, we're valuable. So thank you for all you're doing for women. How do we get more of you, Cho? How do we reach out to you? How do we connect with you?
okay, so probably like the easiest way to reach. I mean, I'm on Instagram. The easiest thing to do is to go to the link tree that I have, because then there are ways that, like, if you want to schedule a call, or it has like all my information on there, and all of the other links for like Instagram or through my website. But if somebody wants to, like, oh, I just want to schedule a call, or I just want to get the free chapter, or I want to find out about the book, it's kind of like already there, and they can do that. And then we can also put this link in if they want to rewatch and
Excellent.
have questions. Yeah.
Beautiful. We'll have all of Cho's information and her links and her website, the link to grab the book. And also, you have a quiz that I want you to share briefly, like tell people where they can get that too, if you to determine how fertile you are, or ask questions around that. So you can get that as well, and it's free. But we'll have all the links in the show notes. So if you're listening or watching this on YouTube, make sure you grab the show notes, because you definitely connect with Cho, whether it's anti-aging, menopause, no matter what stage you are in your journey as a woman. She's your person, as far as holistic remedies and natural ways of creating all of that, of really empowering you to take control and charge of your health. So can you tell us about the quiz real quick? And then I have one last question for you, Joe.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so it's a really easy quiz. It's called How Fertile Am I? And you answer like a few of the questions, and it really gives a perspective of, from a Chinese medicine perspective, where you might be, blood deficient, or constrained qi, or qi deficient, or like different. So I've taken some of the what we call some of the symptomology and some of the patterns, and put it into this quiz to give you, and I like it, for people to have a perspective of like, hey, maybe this is what I need to work on from a Chinese medicine perspective, to just give an idea. And what's important is that it's in Chinese medicine is in a metaphor language, right? So we might talk about like a qi deficiency, which is like a kind of fatigue or something like that. So it doesn't act as a trigger. So when someone hears like, oh, I don't know, tired or something like those words, that it has different meaning. And so that's the beauty is to be able to look at your health from a different perspective and paradigm, and then that gives you an option to make changes by not getting stuck in this kind of medicalized or disease model, right?
Mm, amazing. So one last question for you, Cho, and then I will let you go, help all the people that you help. Can you tell us a fun fact about you?
A fun fact about
Now
me.
we know all of your
Okay.
expertise in the amazingness
In
that you
the,
do and help people.
okay. So the fun fact about me is I am a ballroom dancer. I love ballroom. And yeah, so
That is
it's a
so
great
fun.
exercise. I highly recommend that people, as an activity for movement and fun. It's also good for memory, for your brain.
Mm.
So it's like, and it's also social, like music, movement, social, like all of that.
Oh,
So
that is so fun. What a fun fact. I actually been wanting to do ballroom dancing for years. And it was, I actually reached out to ballrooms, companies, ballroom dance studios around here. And then I tweaked my back. So I was out for about, a month and a half. I was like, I'm not going to dance yet, but that's back on my list to get involved. So I'm so excited that you shared that. Do you have a favorite ballroom dance that you do? A favorite
well, more
genre?
of the international. So I would say it's probably waltz and foxtrot. Those
Mm,
because they're challenging.
very cool.
They all can be challenging if you're I mean like, yeah, you can you push, you always get better, like, and that's like another thing too, is really you challenge yourself to do better and better, like on your own, with yourself. You compete with yourself, like, oh, this time I need to do this thing better.
Yeah.
um
Wow. Well, thank you, Joe, so much for being here. I learned so much. The really big one takeaway, I have so many, but that I want to really hit on for me was stress. How much stress really impacts us in all areas, whether it's anti-aging, fertility, menopause, our health, and inflammation. So thank you for your time today. You are just a wealth of knowledge and such an amazing human. I know Cho outside of this, so I've met her in New York, and I highly recommend you meeting her as well, especially if you want to learn anything about really taking control of your health, moving through menopause with more ease and grace and without the extra pounds. If you are looking to want to start a family and are having some challenges around fertility, or you want some anti-aging tips, because I'm going to tell you again, go check out the YouTube and see her for yourself. Go check her out on social. She's stunning. And so she's doing everything right. Reach out to her, see how she can help and support you. And Cho, just thank you so much for your time. I'm really grateful for our time together today. So thank you again.
Thank you.
We'll see you all on the next episode of the Be She podcast. Go be seen, be heard, and empowered. Have a great day.